In my last video, I talked about 6 steps on how to plan your capstone coding project. And if you don't know what a capstone project is, it's just a term that I took from my university to describe a final project that we would do at the end of our semesters to showcase all the skills that we've learned in that class, in that semester. And so for you, this might look like looking back at your past couple of months, your past couple of weeks, and seeing all the programming skills you've acquired in the past couple of weeks, and then showcasing all of those skills in this one final project. And the first step that I mentioned in that video is to come up with the idea for your project, and that's pretty obvious, but that's actually one of the hardest things to do. So a lot of people, I see this question a lot online, and people are always asking for ideas on what kind of projects they should be making. And I kind of understand the heart behind this and why there's a lot of frustration, because they don't want to build a project that is useless or that would be a waste of time. They want to build a project that they know they could actually learn more about how to code and pick up some good programming skills, and also do a project that's fun. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about how to first come up with the idea for your project, and I'm going to talk about a simple strategy that I've used throughout the years in my own programming journey. So let's get started. So my name's Henrik, and I'm here to help you learn the foundations of software development. So let's get started. But before we begin, I'd like to mention that I do have a free workshop for you. It's called my Capstone Project Workshop. And in that workshop, I go over 3 secrets to coding your own capstone project in just 3 months. Now, why did I create this workshop? The most common goal that I get from people who apply to my one-on-one programming mentorship program is to, quote, be more proficient at creating projects. You and I both know that learning how to code is more than just memorizing code syntax. It's about applying your coding skills to real-world projects that make you feel confident and capable. A lot of new programmers tell me they struggle with turning what they've learned into something practical, and many feel overwhelmed trying to go beyond tutorials to build their own thing. So if this sounds like you can download this workshop in the link in the description, and if you download it and watch it and pay attention to what it says, then you'll definitely build a good foundation to your software development journey. Alright, so I thought it'd be helpful if I go over some examples of capstone projects. So I mentioned that I took this term from my university. So what was my capstone project on? So in my university, I took a class on multimedia signal processing. So in that class, we used software to do some processing on image files, music files, video files, and then do some sort of processing to remove noise maybe, or create something new. And so at the end of that class, I worked on a project where in my team, we would try to take a music file and try to extract the different instruments into and produce different instrument files. And the whole idea behind that was we wanted to take a lot of different songs, and then maybe we can put all of these songs together. Like we could take the drums from one song, and then the vocals from another song, and then the piano from another song, and then create a new song. So that was the main idea of that capstone project. And another component of that project was we needed to synchronize the tempos of those different songs. So if we had a song that was 120 BPM and then another song that was 80 BPM, we needed a way to make it so that when we extract the instruments from those files, we could make sure that they were in the same BPM. And so there was a lot of things that we had to do in that capstone project, but it was a really fun project and I learned a lot from it. And so that's one example of a capstone project. Another example of a capstone project that I usually recommend to beginners is to build an app for your personal finances. And I actually have a free guide called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. And you can download that in the link in the description. I'll leave a link down below. But basically in that guide, I teach you how to take your credit card transactions. And usually you can take these transactions from a file from your credit card company. So you can take that file and then categorize your transactions into different budget categories so you know how much you're spending. And you can customize this to your needs and create your own budget categories. And so it's a really practical application that you can build for your everyday life. And another reason why I recommend this project for beginners is that it teaches you how to parse a file and basically read a file and parse it. And so once you know that skill, once you know how to do that, you can build a lot of other applications with that skill. And another skill that you can pick up from this project is how to parse and compare strings. And once you know how to parse and manage and compare strings, that's another skill that's really useful that I think once you learn that skill, you can build a lot of other projects with that skill as well. And the last reason why I usually recommend this for beginners is because you can build this as a console application. So it's an application that you can just run in terminal or in a console. You don't need to have a GUI component to it. And I would say for beginners, not to worry about the GUI so much, just worry more about your application and getting it to work. And so, because GUIs can be hard, that can be another skill that you can learn. Maybe you can add that as another task once you've finished your Capstone project, you can start thinking about how to put it in a GUI. Maybe that's level 2. But for beginners, I recommend that you just build console applications first, just so you get a basic foundation on how to program. So if you're interested in that kind of Capstone project, you can download that in the description, and you can also email me if you have any questions about it. All right, so those are examples of Capstone projects. Now for the exact strategy that I use for coming up with projects. And I call this my passion project strategy. And it's a really simple strategy. Basically, you want to address 2 criteria. First, you want it to be fun. And then second, you want it to be practical. All right, I want to focus on the practicality aspect. So what I mean by practical is you want to build a project that society would think is practical or valuable. You don't want to waste your time building a project that nobody cares about. And employers, when they look at your resume, they're not going to want to see a project in there that doesn't seem to benefit society at all. They're more interested in projects that are actually beneficial to society. And usually with employers, they're in the business world and they're always trying to come up with applications or come up with solutions that they can sell to other people, that other people would pay money for. So you want to focus on trying to build these kinds of capstone projects. Just because something can be coded doesn't mean it should be coded. So you want to make a project that addresses some sort of market need or addresses some sort of pain point in society, or maybe in your own personal life. And that's why I recommend that budget application I mentioned earlier, because it helps you with your own personal finances. And so you want to build a project that is practical. And another reason why this is important is because it forces you to learn the frameworks and the software skills and tools that other programmers in the real world are using, because they're building something that is practical. So when you are building something that's practical, you're also going to be using whatever they're going to be using. And it makes you familiar with all the different frameworks and tools that are out there in the real world. And then so when you apply for jobs, then you can put that on your resume and show that you've used that in your own capstone project, and then employers will be interested in that. All right, now let's focus on the second criteria. You want your project to be fun. And the reason why I mentioned this is because as a programmer, and every programmer can attest to this, you're eventually going to run into frustrations and overwhelm. And I mentioned the fun component because fun will really help you overcome that frustration and overcome all of those challenges. And I remember when I was first learning how to code, I was learning how to code in a TI-83, and it was frustrating because I had no one to teach me how to do it. But because I was enjoying making these games in my calculator, I was able to push through and continue building games. And as I was building these games, it started to become a hobby to me. It started to become a creative outlet for me. And as I was doing this, it started to become fulfilling and fun. And I was always, whenever I would come home from school, I would always be thinking about, oh, what can I do next in this project that I'm working on? And so you want to have that sort of feeling when you're coming to your capstone project. You don't want to come to your capstone project feeling like you have to do this or feeling like you're doing more work. Rather, you want to do it as your hobby. You want it to be something that you're excited to come home to and work on and implement something new in your capstone project. And another reason why I mentioned this fun component is because the fun component really gets you in that capstone project in a consistent basis. And I really believe that if you want to become a better programmer, you need to have a plan, and you need to set aside time every day to practice coding. And the only way that you can be able to commit to that plan and be able to be consistent is if you're enjoying what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're eventually going to run into a busy day, for example, and then you're not going to code that day. And I've seen so many beginner programmers, they become busy with programming, and then they only code on the weekends, and then eventually it becomes more and more rare, and then eventually they give up. But if you have a project that is fun and then helps you stay consistent and you're coding on it every day, then that's how you can get better at coding. And it will also push you to learn more and more and more. Now, I want to ask you a question that summarizes these two criteria, the fun and the practical criteria. And that question is, what is something in my life that I can automate? And if you think about it, what is software? Software is just a way to automate things in our lives, to make our lives easier. So just think about, if you really want to come up with a capstone project, just really think about that question. What is something in my life that I can automate? And is there something in your life that you wish there was an app for? Or maybe there is an app for that thing in your life, but you wish that it had some features? Then once you're able to answer those questions, then you're onto something. Then that's when you're really onto an idea for a capstone project. So be thinking about that question. What is something in my life that I can automate? And you want to find that problem in your life that can be solved programmatically. And once you're able to do that, you've checked off the practicality aspect, and then you've also checked off the fun aspect, because now you can build something that can actually help you in your life. And this is actually how I came up with the idea for my personalized finance app, because I was originally doing my personal finances in Google Sheets. And that's where I had my budget, and then I was organizing my credit card transactions in that Google Sheets. So what I would do is I would go log in at my credit card company in my dashboard, get all my credit card transactions, copy it, and then paste it in Google Sheets. And then I would try to categorize each of them manually through the Google Sheets columns. And then I started to get annoyed, or it started to become a pain to me, because I had to categorize everything. And I was thinking to myself, I wish I could just categorize this automatically. So I actually coded something in Google Sheets that can categorize all of my transactions automatically. And then that's when I started to come up with the idea that if I can code this in Google Sheets, then I can probably code this in an actual application, in a console application. And that way I don't have to copy and paste into the Google Sheets. I can just provide the original file from my credit card company and then put it in this application. The application can parse it for me, and I don't have to do any copy and pasting or formatting. It would just format it for me, and then it could categorize my credit card transactions right away. And so that's how I came up with the personalized finance app. So this is the best type of capstone project. It is something that I can use in my everyday life. And because I can use it in my everyday life, I get excited when I come home to work on it, because I can actually use it for my actual personal finances. And furthermore, you can already see that there's a demand for this kind of project in the world already. You can see that there's a lot of services that do just this. They take your credit card transactions and then they categorize it for you. But the problem is that you have to pay for it. So instead of you paying other people to do it for you, you can just create your own application and then manage your own finances through your own application. And then you can even personalize it for your own life. And so this is why this would be a good capstone project for beginners. All right, so there you go. That's my tip. That's my strategy, the passion project strategy for how to come up with the idea for your capstone project. And I hope it really sparks some ideas on how you can build your own capstone project. So what is something in my life that I can automate? Or what is some problem in my life that I can solve programmatically? And I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Please leave a comment down below. What is your next capstone project idea going to be? And hopefully it will also spark some ideas for other people who are watching as well. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave it down in the comment section what you're going to build next. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a free workshop for you, my capstone project workshop. And in that workshop, I go over 3 secrets to coding your own capstone project in just 3 months. So if you want to become more proficient at creating your own projects, you want to move on from these tutorials and create your own projects, then be sure to check the link in the description and watch my coding workshop today. Alright, that's it for this week's video. I hope it really helped you out and helped you come up with some ideas on how you can come up with the idea for your capstone project. And if it did help you out, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know in the comments section, and I'll be sure to answer you there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.